Hello and welcome to Saturday Tech Talk with Jeremy. My name is Jeremy Leik and I'm going to be your host today. And we're going to talk about a few tech items. We're going to look at a little bit of virtualization. And if you have questions, head on over to the chat and I will try to address those questions as they come in. Let's get things started. So, let's get to the right screen. There we go. And hopefully that's coming through to all of you. So on your screen, you can see we've got Proxmox Virtual Environment version 6.24, 6.2-4 that released earlier this week. Hello, Stephen Briggs. Hello, Carlos. All right, this is going to be a party, all right. If you've got questions, please go ahead and enter them in the chat. And as I said, I will try to address those as we go. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a couple of news items that I found interesting from earlier this week. If anybody has been following the development of Pi-hole, Pi-hole is networking. It was originally created to run on a Raspberry Pi, and it will get rid of all those annoying advertisements, or many of the annoying advertisements on websites, with the exception of YouTube, ironically. So if you've not checked that out, I do have a video or 2 or 3 available on the subject, and I will be doing a video in the coming weeks on Pi-hole 5.0 and doing a setup on that. The next news item: Microsoft is dropping 32-bit Windows support with the next big upgrade, known as second half 2020, or first half 2020, or 2004. This mainly relates to computer manufacturers and any existing 32-bit Windows 10 machines out there will not be impacted. Related to that, if you are currently running Windows 10 version 1909, which was the last upgrade of 2019, this is a great time to download a boot disk image. If you're running Windows, you would grab the Windows 10 Media Creator utility. Or if you're running on a Mac, or Linux, they actually give you the option to download an ISO image, which is kind of cool. Now, if you want to get around the whole issue with running Windows 10 and you want to directly download the ISO image, you can do this. The last I checked, you can do this by changing the browser identifier temporarily to show that you're running Chrome or Firefox on Linux or Mac OS instead of Windows. And that should give you the same prompt to download an ISO image. There is an interesting news story from The Register, a tech news site out of the UK, and the headline was, Everything okay with Microsoft? Windows Giant admits it was on wrong side of history with regard to open source. I somehow find this a little ironic because I've been advocating open source for the better part of 20 years now, maybe a little bit more than 20 years now. And I've definitely seen a dramatic change in Microsoft's attitude. Does that mean I trust Microsoft completely these days? Absolutely not. Does it mean that I'm a little more open to what Microsoft has to say and what they're doing with some of their initiatives? Yes, I will take notice, and I do believe that the leadership of Satya Nadella has been a wonderful thing for transforming Microsoft, and it will be interesting to see where the company goes in the future. Last news item for the week is LibreOffice 7.0 Alpha has been released at the beginning of the week for public testing. Now, if you have not been on the bleeding edge of LibreOffice before, you can install on your machine alongside of a stable version of LibreOffice, and they will not interfere with each other. So when you have an alpha version installed, it is listed as LibreOffice Dev, and your stable version would be listed as just LibreOffice. Again, a great addition. I've been following LibreOffice for over 15 years. I transitioned from StarOffice to OpenOffice.org and then to LibreOffice. And in fact, I did all my papers throughout grad school in LibreOffice, and the professors were none the wiser because they accepted documents in PDF format. So, don't ask, don't tell. They don't need to know. Stephen, you make a great point. Yes, with a lot of the old guard gone, I am optimistic that the trend will continue. In fact, it's interesting to me that the most used operating system in the Azure cloud service is Linux. You would think that Microsoft would be flogging Windows hard, but they're actually making money selling cloud services to people that want to run Linux as part of their infrastructure. Yes, Carlos. Normally, LibreOffice does release app images. I think Canonical is packaging it as a snap as well. And who knows? There's probably a Flatpak floating around out there too. It's very nice. The way we've got these options on Linux these days. It's much different world than, in 1997 when I first installed Red Hat on a 486. I think it was a DX4120. Lots and lots of things have changed, and most of them for the better. There are guys out there that knew Unix from the 70s and 80s, and if they didn't go the BSD route, then they are some of the more vocal complainers about some of the decisions that have been made along the way for Linux, but it's all good. It's all good. All right. So, going back to our Proxmox and make sure I'm on the right one. Okay, so Proxmox 6.2 was released earlier this week. And this machine that I brought up for making Proxmox videos is still running 6.1. So we're going to jump over to the terminal here. And let me make sure that I can see what I'm supposed to be seeing. Let's see. All right, we're going to jump to the terminal. And we'll connect via SSH to the Proxmox machine. Enter the password. And we're going to do a couple of things. First, we're going to move the PVE Enterprise list to our home directory. We don't want to delete it, but we just want to make a change here to the way things are working and how we get our upgrades. So we're going to do move etc apt sources .list.d slash PVE Enterprise list, and we're going to move it to tilde, which is our home directory. And our next step is we're going to edit with nano etc apt sources, and we're going to come down to the bottom of the list here, and we're going to add a line to this. Deb http download.proxmox.com/debian p space buster space PVE no subscription. And we're going to exit and save. And then we're going to do apt update and apt dist upgrade. And it's going to go ahead and download and prompt us if we want to continue. Yes. And while that's doing its thing, I will switch over, and we are doing all right there. Let's check this out. I want to see a couple things on the stream while we're running through this. Everything seems to be doing what it's supposed to. There's a small lag, but I'm not dropping any frames, so that is a great thing. So how's this Saturday treating everybody today while we're waiting for the updates to go through? It's a nice looking day outside. 63 degrees Fahrenheit where I'm at. we'll see how the summer treats us and if we are actually able to allowed to get outside and enjoy the warm weather other than just around the properties where we live. It should be sort of an interesting summer under the current circumstances. All right, looks like we are on the final stretch of the updates. And once the updates are done, we'll reboot the server and we should be at version 6.2 after that. All right, well, we're at 50%. At least that's what I'm seeing. Maybe lagging behind a little bit for you guys viewing live, but I'm pretty happy with this 2-machine streaming setup that I've got going. According to my screen on YouTube monitoring the stream, I am not dropping any packets at the moment, and we should be coming through at a solid 30 frames per second, which just impresses the heck out of me because I was really struggling to get there using a 1-machine setup. So I think that's a pretty decent improvement over where I started. And yes, the drop frames is 0.0% according to OBS on my other machine. So I am very happy with that outcome. All right. We are going to go ahead and reboot the machine. And we'll switch over to Mirabox so that when that restarts, you should be able to see the video for that coming up. There we go. It's an Optiplex 790. I think I paid $50 for this on eBay without a hard drive. So I can't complain. I saw a great deal and I jumped on it, and yeah, I'm very pleased with the results for this machine. And the streaming machine is a machine I received on trade. I got rid of an Acer touchscreen laptop that I just despised the whole time I had it, and ended up the streaming machine is a Dell Optiplex 7010, which is actually identical to the machine that I've got on my desk at work at the library. So that's kind of an interesting aside there. So we'll jump back to the terminal and we'll reconnect. All right, we are good there. And I'm going to change this And there we go. And we'll do screen. And now we should, if it reloads, now we should be on Proxmox VE 6.2.4, which is great. All right, so as promised, we're going to spin up a VM. And so currently, so take a look here. Currently on our Proxmox node, under content, we've got one ISO image up here already for Fury BSD 12.0, the KDE edition. And so we're going to create a new virtual machine based on this ISO image. So we'll right click on PVE demo, create virtual machine, and we're going to call it Fury BSD. We'll say next. And use the ISO image, the only one we've got on the system, Fury BSD. Next, graphics card is default, and it's got a few other options there, but we're going to go with default for the moment. We've got the option of the QEMU agent, which right now we're going to leave that off. This is my first shot with Fury BSD, so we will see. We will see what happens here. We're going to give it 40 gigs of hard drive space, and again we'll say next, and we're going to give this 2 CPU cores. And give it a little bit of extra RAM. The networking is going to be bridged, so it will show up on the network, on my production home network. And let's say start after created. Say finish. And then it comes up as VM100. And if we go to the console here, that is in fact booting up. And see if it cooperates with us or not. Well, that looks good. All right. Will it cooperate? That's the $10 million question. Plasma, made by KDE. I do have to say that this very inexpensive microphone stand I got my hands on has been a wonderful addition. I've been able to separate my microphone from where my computer is sitting on my desk, and so you don't have quite the amount of fan noise coming in the back of the microphone. So we've got the Fury BSD desktop, and we'll see if it's completely frozen or not. Because it does not seem to be cooperating too well at the moment. All right. Well, see, this is the wonderful thing about live demos. You never know quite what's going to happen, and if something can go wrong, it usually will go wrong. So, yeah. All right, we'll give this another 20 seconds or so and see if it decides to cooperate. And I don't think it's going to. So we're going to just shut it down. And we will move on to something else. Aha. And it did exit with a core dump. That's not too cool. So I'm just going to tell it to stop. And we're going to just go ahead and delete that disk. All right, while we're waiting for that, does anybody have questions of any variety? Tech questions, anything interesting you've seen in the tech news? I'm open to a little bit of discussion while I'm waiting for Proxmox to catch up with what I want to do. Okay. Giving up on 2 buffers. Alright, so finally that has stopped. Alright, so if you haven't used Proxmox before, if you want to get rid of a virtual machine, we should be able to just go ahead and delete that. And more, remove, purge, type the ID. Okay, now we can purge, remove. Goodbye, Fury BSD. Alright, so now that we've got rid of that, we will come over here to local. We're going to remove the ISO image as well. And we'll move on to something else. If we do upload, we can do an ISO image. And I am connected to Lord Nikon. But let's see if we've got something else in my And my ISOs here that we might find interesting. Oh, what the heck. Let's do Elementary OS. That's always a fun one to play with. We'll upload that. And I'm going to turn off my microphone for just a moment. I will be right back with more fun commentary. Alright, sorry about that. I just had to get a little bit of a drink since my throat was getting dry. So we're currently copying the ISO image or the disk image across from my main machine to the storage on the Proxmox demo machine. And let's switch over and chat and And guess nobody's feeling talkative today. I'm still like the way they've got this laid out. So they give you an overall health status. They give you information on how many virtual machines and how many containers you've got running and stopped. And then resources. They have sort of a analog looking gauge with the percentage listed. So that's all in good. We don't have any subscriptions running. So yeah, this is a pretty clean graphical interface for a web-based interface, and it's plenty functional and just actually pretty nice to work with. Maybe not as straightforward as what you might find on VirtualBox or VMware Workstation, but it has some things that those products do not have. For instance, if you had multiple machines on your network running, then you could have those in a cluster situation and do live migrations between the two physical machines. Audio issues. Let me take a look. Let's see. Well, it's showing drop frames 0.4% from the streaming machine, but the stream information is saying stream health is excellent. So that's not telling me anywhere that there's an issue with the audio. I know that it is probably going to be out of sync whenever I have video of me on the screen from my camera. I know that's going to be kind of horrendously out of sync at the moment. That is something that I am working on and trying to remedy. I did not get quite as far on that as I had hoped before today's live stream, but I did want to make sure that I went live today and did something, and so I've held myself to that standard, and I overall I'm happy with the way things are going. But yes, there will be some syncing issues between the audio and video currently. But again, the only place I've got to go is up from here. This, especially working with NDI on for video streams is a new thing to me. And if you're not familiar, NDI is a technology from NewTek. I can get this over here. NDI is the Network Device Interface. So it basically allows me to take the stream from my main machine, send it over to the streaming machine before it's encoded there and then sent up to YouTube as live video. And from what I can gather, there are ways that you can separate the audio and video into separate NDI streams, and that is supposed to help with the sync between them. But there doesn't seem to be any hard and fast documentation that gives you a good guideline on how exactly to set that up with OBS. So that is something that I am going to be continuing to work on going forward. But yeah, I'm curious on something now. Kill that. Oh, let's see. Sometimes this would be easier if I had a second person to help with the streaming pieces. So we'll see what happens going forward. All right. So if we jump back to Proxmox, we are coming down the home stretch of having Elementary OS installed. And then we'll play around with that for a little while, and I'm probably going to wrap this up at 3 or just a hair after, and make sure that everything closes out properly on the YouTube side, and call it a day. But yes, I will be again working on those audio issues. It's really a syncing issue when it comes down to it, and I'm hoping to have things a little bit more worked out between now and next Saturday when I'll do the next live stream. I should have a pre-recorded video coming out on Monday or Tuesday, which will be the next episode in the series on an end-to-end Proxmox setup, which should be interesting based on some of the feedback I've had on some of the Proxmox videos I've posted so far. So before I got too deeply into it, I wanted to have some sort of a end-to-end how-to on how to set it up and do some basics, and then walk through some of the more advanced stuff, setting up the clustering, migrating machines from one physical, migrating virtual machines from one physical machine to another, and just having some fun with it, because that's what learning is all about, is, experimentation, having some fun, discovering what your ideal view of a home lab is going to be, and what you want the machines in your home lab to do. So but yeah, hopefully we'll be through this install here in another minute or two. But I'm going to check one thing here while we're all waiting and see if I can diagnose things. All right, so yeah, I've got the video playing on my cell phone with headphones plugged in, and there is some pretty serious lag between the video and the audio. So thanks for pointing that out, Carlos. I will be working on that throughout the week. Alright, we finally made it to the end of the install. And we're going to shut that down. And we're going to go to hardware. And we're going to come down to CD DVD drive. Edit. And do not use any media. And then we'll come back over to the side and we will say start. And jump back to the console. And make that full screen. Well, I do have a couple of other ideas on how I might be able to set things up differently, but that would require me to move some computers around, which is something I am willing to do. Just going to take a little bit of logistics management to make that all happen. And hopefully if I did that, it would maybe take care of some more of the issues that I'm seeing with this. So time will tell. I've got some experiments to do during the week, and it will hopefully be better when it comes around time to do this next week. And the little Optiplex is plugging away, but I'm still waiting for it to come up. I do not like that things are not quite operating the way I wanted them to today. But let's take a look at why is my video not updating at all? Drop frames 0.4%. There is something going on, and I'm not sure quite what it is right now. But it appears my video feed has completely frozen. try something here. That's perplexing. Interesting. Okay, well, so it appears that somewhere along the line the video has completely frozen, even though it appears that audio is still going through. Yeah. So I'm okay blaming YouTube. At this point, that would at least make me feel mildly better about the whole situation. But yeah, it's weird because the streaming machine, the video is frozen. And yet, oh, well, it's kind of catching up now. Okay, so that looks a little bit better. I'm not sure it's going to help on your end. Well, I guess it's updated on my phone. But yeah, so things are not quite operating the way I had expected them. And Elementary OS does seem to be completely frozen, which is again sort of odd, but all right. Let's see. Virt Manager guest freezes with 5.5 kernel. I'm not sure, James. I haven't been using Virt Manager too much lately. Ever since I heard that Red Hat has sort of discontinued its support and development for Virt Manager in favor of using Cockpit, I sort of backed off the Virt Manager kick I was on for a minute there. So I'm not entirely sure what to tell you on that one. But in this case, my Elementary OS is not cooperating. So let's go ahead and stop that. And we will try one final time before I wrap this up for the day. Oops. I guess I need to... Well, I guess that's just part of the lag. Let me look at one other thing here. Yeah, that's just part of the laggy video. So, yeah, my apologies, everybody, for some of this crazy lag. I honestly don't know whether to blame it on YouTube being overloaded or if the issue is in fact on my end. Like I said, the crazy thing is that OBS is reporting only 0.4% frames dropped, which should, in theory, have things pretty decent looking on YouTube for all of you that are watching live. But anything's possible during this COVID period where we've got, a lot of extra traffic on YouTube, on the internet in general. And, yeah. So, YouTube, we blame you. That's the official consensus. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But next week I will try using the backup or secondary ingest server for YouTube and see if that has any impact at all on things being synced up a little bit better. Wow, that's really, really behind on the video. Okay, well, we will see what happens on that. So, Elementary OS froze again on us. I'm going to go ahead and stop that. And I will do a little bit more investigating on this in the next week as well. So, I'm going to jump back to the chat with the camera, even though I may or may not be in max headroom mode. If anybody watching is old enough to remember that show. And we'll see what happens. All right. Well, it is almost 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. I am going to go ahead and wrap that. I'm going to go to the end stream screen at this point. But I will keep things going for a few moments until the back end on my system actually shows that screen is being displayed on YouTube. So thank you all for coming out today and spending an hour with me, and I hope to see you again. Keep an eye out for those Proxmox videos coming soon. I've got several episodes recorded. I just need to do voiceovers and a little bit of editing, and they will be ready for release. I expect the second installment of that series to drop Monday or Tuesday. So everything should be all right from there. I will see everybody next week and in the comments, and I hope you are all enjoying the fine weather. Happy computing.